in Hollywood, California. With me, you know her as the one and only Saskia Weber, 99 World Cup winner. That's right. We're going with you first because then Omar Zeenni is going to be announced after that because he's got his fantastic Ferns background going on. You know him as the Pro GK Academy. And we have the reason we have that Ferns background, the one and only former New Zealand international, now head coach at Loyola Marymount University with a fantastic virtual background, the one and only Jenny Bindon. What is up?
Thanks for having me. I mean, this is exciting. Saskia has always been someone I've admired through my entire career, and then now we're mates, eh, Saskia?
We're absolutely mates, 100%. I thank you for that compliment, but the feeling's mutual, 100%. Kidding me?
Oh my gosh! Now this has been a little bit of a crazy day for everybody to know. We've been having complete like connection issues today. I don't know what's going on in there. I think it's just that the gods were like, you know what? I think Saskia and Jenny, that's too much at one time. I think we can't have this. So they're trying to force it to not happen, but we're going to make it happen anyway. Jenny, for some of the people,
like what I was trying to say is I'm just trying to fill big shoes right now at UCLA. So,
all right, you're good. You're good.
Yeah,
Saskia and I got the really fortunate. I was assistant coach under the amazing Amanda Cromwell, and Saskia and I became pretty good friends during that and worked with each other and just love bouncing ideas off with goalkeepers and goalkeeper coaches, like-minded people. A little bit, you're either really crazy or very introverted, and I think both Saskia and I are a bit crazy. So we've gotten on like a house on fire. I think it was a smooth transition when the opportunity came up to go to LMU, and
yeah, so excited for you there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, Jenny. So for some of the people out there who might not be familiar with your career and kind of, your journey, to becoming a head coach at LMU, congratulations first off on that. That's obviously a huge responsibility to go from a goalkeeping position as a top assistant and then becoming the head coaching responsibilities. Why don't you kind of, break down a little bit of kind of your journey from, with the New Zealand internationals, playing overseas and then coming back here and getting into the collegiate game.
Yeah, I was really fortunate. Played. I'm originally from the States. Went to university up in Chicago, Lewis University, Division II school, where I played basketball, soccer, and tennis. And then I met my husband, who's a volleyball player. Moved to New Zealand with him, and then by chance, and this is a big thing I always say, is you never know who's watching. I was playing co-ed 7-a-side soccer. I was in goal. I was seen by one of the directors of coaching within New Zealand football. And that was kind of how I got asked, do you have a passport? I said, yeah, I'm a dual citizen, and off I went, and my career just exploded. So I went from working with Nike New Zealand and to quitting my job. People thought I was crazy to go full-time playing for the national team. And from there, I just chances. I ended up going and playing. I'm still the most capped goalkeeper for men and women in New Zealand. And I've been in 2 World Cups, 2 Olympics, and then chance meeting of Amanda at the LA convention. And then, we had a few chats and off I am to LA. So I retired in 2014 from playing international soccer. Had always done my badges and always been into coaching, something I'm just very passionate about. And when I was playing, I played in the men's competition for about 7 years while I was playing and won the national team for a decade. So transitioned from the women's game coaching. They didn't really want me. They were kind of like, well, you didn't want to be here with us. So I said, fine, I'll go coach men. So I coached a men's team in the lead up to coming out to UCLA, and did that for 3 years with Amanda and Sam Green, Josh Walters, and Jay Melicones. And then now did 2 Final Fours and 1 Elite 8, and off I went to LMU. So there you go.
I mean, that's amazing. And, that's crazy what you said in regards to the convention thing. Cause like Omar and I, the last couple of years we've been going to convention, and we've been doing this, the whole networking thing and doing some podcasts there and everything. And like, Omar, you can't stress enough how many of the connections you've made just through just going to the conventions, and how many job opportunities have just come from just going to convention.
I mean, we talk about it's like a Disneyland for everybody, just everybody goes there. I mean, going there with obviously the intent of networking and meeting people, but at the same time too, knowing that you're bringing value to people and they're bringing value to you. And I think when you go in there with an open mind like that, you never know who you're going to meet. And I think, Mike, you're the one who kind of told me to go to Chicago. And then once I left Chicago, I was like, wow, I'm never missing one of these again. I remember one time we went to, get drinks with, I think it was like 12 goalkeeper coaches, and we all just sat down and we were talking about, I think it was John Bush was telling us stories about his career, and then Phil Whedon was telling us, stories about his career as a coach. And it was just like this amazing experience, everybody just getting under the same roof for their, the, I guess, collective understanding of what the weekend was going to be about. So it was awesome.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I think that whole collective environment, really breeds to, learning from different coaches and experiencing different things in regards to, what their methodology is, what's working for them, what's not working for them, which really made me start thinking about, the thinking. Like, we had Tim Dittmer on the podcast when we were at convention in February, and he was talking about creating thinking goalkeepers, which is really what fascinated me about, Jenny's whole idea for a topic here. And I want to kind of transition into that. And today's topic is going to be teaching cognitive distribution skills. And, Jenny, what I thought was first off fascinating about that is that, we work so much on the why from a technical and a tactical standpoint when we see distribution activities taking place at the youth level. But we don't really teach logic and how to think within a game. So kind of in your own words, like, what do we mean by cognitive skills for distribution?
Yeah, well, I think the cognitive in itself is the mental action or processing of acquired knowledge, and applying what you do on a daily basis into how you're actually going to transform what the game model is, how the coach wants you to play, what the opposition is doing, the line of confrontation, and then the goalkeeper has to make a split decision on what they're going to do. And, my big argument that I have is that the expectations that we put on our youth goalkeepers, to our collegiate, to our professionals, is so high when we don't actually train it. And then, that can end up leading, a mistake there can end up leading to, I think it's 71% of the goals scored from short passes from a goalkeeper that lead to a goal, lead to a loss in the game. And those stats are alarming and something that we need to pay more attention to. And, you talk about the mythology with our kids, but let's set them up to succeed. Let's teach this. Let's have, make it more proven for them to have training situations that allow them to be successful in the game. And I think that's where we have to challenge ourselves.
That's something that I would love that you're saying that in regards to that, because like Saskia has been speaking so much about, now coaching at that next level, coaching at that collegiate level, how much it is. It's just like, I don't understand why these goalkeepers expect me to spoon feed them the answers. Because, maybe she obviously comes from the same ilk as yourself.
I didn't quite say it like that.
Well, no, okay. So I'm putting words in your mouth, but but you know what I mean. You know what I mean, though, exactly in regards to that.
Well, it's from a teaching. We want them to self-coach, to understand, why they're doing what they're doing, what is going on. Yeah, Jenny's right. It's a split-second decision. But when you're in practice and you set up situations that they'll see in games and they fail, don't turn to me and tell me why you failed. Tell me what you think. Like, let's work through this. Let's learn, so that the next time I can just look at you and you'll be like, and it's not as simple, and what we're talking about here, it's not as simple as shot stopping and stuff like that. This is organization. This is understanding the systems in front of you. This is understanding the play, where your defenders need to be, how to manipulate the situation, which we've talked about multiple times in front of you, and why you're doing it, and what benefits that you. And that all has to come down to a split second, and it has to be trained. It has to be learned. But if I'm giving you the answers all the time, then you're not learning. So, as a teacher, and, as teachers out there, coaches out there listening, like, you have to, allow them to experience these things and understand what's going on, why in this situation you do that, if you see it multiple times, and everything. And that's like the next level of education. And it is kind of shocking in a sense to see how it's not being taught, how, it's always the way I've coached and stuff, but, seeing like high school kids and seeing they're just shot stoppers.
Yeah.
You know, and they're just a cone back there, and they're reactive, not proactive, like I always say.
Well, you know, I think one of the good things in that, Omar, I know you've been stressing this lately in regards to your training sessions, the videos that you've been putting up and everything like that, is that you need to make sure if you're doing any sort of distribution activity specifically, like I remember when we were speaking with Kaylin Sheridan, she pointed out like 4 or 5 different scenarios that were available to her in one moment. And then based on logic, she's got to determine what's going to have the highest level of success rate. And, you know, and how do we actually make that applicable in a training session? So we're not like, hey, got to play it here. You got to play it here. You got to play it here. But no, let them trial and error and figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I think as a coach for me that I've learned is, you know, you can't script everything so much. And I feel like that's been something that I, you know, have noticed about myself is that when I draw out my sessions, and obviously I film a lot of my stuff too, and I post it on YouTube. So in my head, this idea of having a perfect session is what I want, because for whatever reason, I want to be seen as a great coach and I want my YouTube channel, whatever it is, it's in my head. And then now I'm like starting to realize when it comes to passing, you know, patterns, or when it comes to decision making, when it comes to trial and error for the goalkeepers, I'm doing them a disservice of trying to script everything and make everything so perfect versus like this, you know, this is the 5 different things that you could potentially, you know, decide to do with this pass back. Now I want you to decide. I don't care. Worries. Okay, you did 5 perfectly right. Now taking care of that. Let's get the left foot involved. Well, it won't look good on camera. I don't care. I want you to just try to get, you know, I want you to go out, you know, try and get that prep touch, and then, you know, try and put yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable. And I think me and other coaches could probably do a better job of, you know, like Saskia said, like, I'm not going to give you all the answers, but I'm going to put you in situations that are going to force you to problem solve and find the answers on your own. And I just don't think me personally have done that well enough. And I probably will go back to my, you know, my session planning one of these days, and I will forget, and then I'll be in the session and go, oh my God, let them mess up. But at the end of the day, I think that's the beauty of us as coaches, you know, going to these conferences and discussing with other coaches and realizing that pool, or who was it, Mike? I forgot who we were talking to. And I was saying how Anthony White, who's at Bournemouth, he was saying how he's going to eliminate volleys completely. He's only going to serve from the ground. And then I was like, well, I wanted to try that. And then I forgot the guest, but they were just like, Omar, understand this coach has been doing this for years and years and years. You understand how long it took them to get from that process to this process? You don't have to copy everybody. And same thing with the goalkeepers. It's like, yes, you may be training with somebody who has, don't compare your worst attributes to their best attributes. Understand you're going to fail because that person failed as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I asked Jenny if she agrees with this, but I think that we've created like a generation of some very spoiled children. And not you. I love your son. I'm not saying that. Like, I'm saying in the sense of like to watch. If a session is set up and, you know, they're so literal, you know, I always say that, like, oh, I'm supposed to get the ball here and do this and do that. If the ball's not put perfectly here, I've looked at players and they've been like, well, you know, what kind of a service was that? Figure it out. Like, you know, figure it out. And that's me. I'm like, you're not always going to get a perfect service in the crust of whatever I've diagrammed. Like, figure it out. That's soccer. That's goalkeeping. You know, sorry, it's a little to your left or a little to your right. Finish the play, figure it out, do what you have to do, and we'll move on from it. But don't sit here and look at me or look at the person serving you and be like, ball's supposed to be here, you know, and stuff like that. Those are the things that we have to get out of these next generations and play the game, play. And not everything is so perfect.
I want to bring this up with Jenny right now because I think, you know, personally, I think one of the issues, and I don't know if you've noticed this as well too, at the youth levels, is that people are giving the same service from, and we're talking about from a distribution standpoint, over and over again. They're not varying that service. So like even Omar, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago in regards to through balls, right? And if you're playing specific through balls, and if you're always playing the same types of through balls or in the same patterns, then they're just only going to be able to understand those scenarios. And then when they face anything adverse, there's a bounce or the ball's spinning a different way or it takes a deflection, they don't know how to handle it. And Jenny, do you feel that that's kind of one of the issues that we're seeing here in regards to, you know, being able to think on your feet from a distribution standpoint?
Yeah, I think all that plays into it. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is when I've seen, you're out in the park and you watch people do sessions and you just go, oh, even the simple throwback, like my biggest pet peeve is every opportunity you make a save, it's followed with a distribution. So even when you're throwing that ball back to the coach, the two-handed chest pass back or the overhead because they're trying to get rid of it quick. Well, you're going to do that in a game. You're going to go make a solid catch and you're just going to deflect the ball down because that's what you've been doing 40 times in the week already before. So every time you make a save, you make a distribution. And I know Saskia knows I'm really big on that. Like everything
Huge
distribution constantly.
Yeah. Huge. And Mike had seen Lauren's distribution. We'll bring Lauren up, is just phenomenal at this point. And the other day I was doing distribution with the keepers and but it was that thinking process again. It was, okay, we're working on some saves, then into distribution. And for some reason, all of you guys, set the goals up, from a distance. All of you guys keep rolling the ball to yourself and trying to kick it in that goal. You know what I mean? And I'm like, can you guys make your own thought process here right now? I said, do me a favor. I said, somebody make the save, get up and throw the ball. Why don't you try that? So 9 times out of 10, one hop on a laser right into the goal. 9 times out of 10 with rolling the ball to yourself and trying to lace it and strike this, it's all over the place. And I was just think about it. In a game situation, if you want quick distribution, are you going to stop, make the save, stop, roll the ball, let everybody know where you're going to kick the ball and then kick it? Or if you want quick distribution, can you use your hand? Think, mix it up and everything. And I know you're huge on that. Trust me, the keepers are we're doing distribution with this, right? And I'm like, yes, you are. Like I said, I have big shoes to fill, but I love it. So.
Omar, that's actually a really good point, because when we were talking about in regards to when the ball is in your hands, and I try to tell this to kids all the time, when the ball is in your hands, you're already the first line of attack. You already have the advantage. So if you scan the field and you see an opportunity, you only put the ball down if you're going to delay, if you need to reassess. And that's where that logic comes into play. How do we develop that muscle in a youth player so that they think not from what looks cool, but think logic? What is the objective? Why are you doing something?
So you're asking me, how can we portray that to them so it's not as
Yeah, because the thing I think because it's become rote in their minds is that I put the ball at my feet. I put the ball at my feet rather.
But I think there's a bigger issue with that. I think there's an issue in teaching kids that they have to understand what situation is ahead of time. I think a lot of kids do that delay and stuff like that because they have no idea where their players are. They have no idea where things are, and they have to take that moment, scan, and figure it out. Whereas you get more developed and as you become better, you already know where your players are. And those players know where they're supposed to be. So I know that somebody's going to be open in this zone and stuff like that. So if I make this save, I know I can do a quick counter right there. They're going to be up the left side of the field. And so if you have to take that pause and do that, well, what's that mean? That means everybody else gets to get set too.
Yeah.
Personally,
go ahead. No, Jen.
No. Go ahead. You're the guest.
I think it's as simple as them understanding, we go back to, what your game model, your principles play are, principles, blah, 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 all that nonsense. But it's as simple as when you have the ball in your defending third and you're in the attacking moment, you're trying to break lines.
Yeah.
Simple as it is. So if I can make a pass as a goalkeeper that's going to take one player out of the game and my teammate can receive a ball facing forward, tick, job done. And I think if we simplify that, and then you basically are asking questions, where's the line of confrontation? Where are the gaps in space? What formation are they playing in? So I should be able to figure out gaps in space because I know the formation at the elite level. But even if I firmly believe we can teach this at the youth level as well, to the goalkeepers. If we're talking about this, look where their 9 is. Look, do they have two people attacking? If you're playing 7-a-side soccer, a simple, trying to keep it. Or they have 2 people forward, well, we need to split them, or we need to make a pass that's going to allow our player to break that line. And I think if we just keep it so simple, but no one tells them that. You can go to a collegiate soccer player now, goalkeeper, men or women, and say, what is your goal when you're distributing? And they'll have no idea. Kick it as far away as I can, so I know it's not going to come back at me straight away.
Absolutely.
But it's simply breaking lines.
I love what you
Because
just said there. Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think there's 2 points that I would say. Is the first one is when I was playing, I would always, before any situation was happening, I would already like look ahead, and I would say, like, if Saskia was on my team, I'd be like, Saskia, I need you to be the outlet. And right away, before the ball's even served, I would have one eye there, just scanning prior, just so I can get a picture of what's happening there. Just so if I do catch the ball, I know what's going on. Secondary to that is if you guys watched any mistakes from Jordan Pickford, or even the mistakes that didn't lead to goals, most of what he does, and if you watch it, he'll drop the ball more often than not because he's already thinking about the next decision. So what I would do is I would show the kids of, like, there's a fine line between you wanting to go and knowing where to go with the ball. But at the same time, too, we have to finish the first objective, which is catching the ball cleanly. And I think that is when we talk about now about how it needs to be functional in training sessions, where after you catch a cross, the play's not done. You're not going to throw the ball back to the server and then we're going to go another one. If you want to, if you have a big group, or even if you have just, you and the goalkeeper you have mini goals set up so that that secondary movement and action is forcing them to finish the first action, so we can do just like we would in a game. And I feel like when we talk about the cognitive skills of distribution, that has a lot to do with it, is understanding that once the objective is done, then you worry about what the next picture looks like, because you've already scanned before and you have a way better idea of what to go to next. And I think that's my point, though, is that you can show the good and the bad. Pickford is amazing at finding distribution. He went viral like 5 years ago, where he hit a side volley with D21s, led to a goal. Everybody found out who he was. They started watching him. He started trying to do that all the time. But it's like he's trying to do these side volleys and trying to do these things for counterattacks when the situation's just not there. So it's like, yes, you love the guy because he's doing a great job of scanning and knowing where the options are. But at the same time, too, should we continue to applaud him when he's not using the skill set in the right way, in the right context? No. And I think that's why you show the video to the kids of, like, this is what it looks like when it does a great job with it, and this is what it looks like when you do the wrong step first. So that's what I would say is if you're going to try and spoon feed it or even bring it up to the goalkeepers, use some video footage as well.
I think there's something here that I want to bring up as well, too, with you, Jenny, is that, a few weeks back when we were speaking with Mitch Hildebrandt, from Sporting Kansas City, and he was saying that whenever he's doing a session, is like, one of his biggest pet peeves is that when distribution, when something happens where a ball's played into pressure, or it's played into a wrong area, is that people act like, well, all the play's over. Okay, let's move on to the next activity or whatever, as opposed to what he really stresses is, like, in the game, you're going to get punished. So he makes sure that, like, whenever any sort of distribution is played and it's the wrong decision, quote unquote, well, now you don't get time to get set again, because now you're out of position because you just played the ball to somebody in a dangerous area, and now you've got to reset for that, right? So that they start developing kind of like that, that mental muscle of, like, every time I play a ball, I need to be ready to react to whatever could happen, whether my player receives the ball, whether they play it up the field, whether they square it up, whether they lose possession, so they're actually developing that. Would you agree?
Totally, 100%. And I think that's why when we do distribute, it's important that you stand up, you get yourself in a position where you can be successful. And if you're not, I mean, some of the biggest saves that keepers have made have come from poor distribution because they're already moving down the line of the ball. So, I can think of like 5 or 6 saves probably I made in my career that were amazing because I made an error, but I was already in the line of the ball and you're able to make a save. I did play for New Zealand, so I got shot on a lot, but yeah, so I think
yeah, I'm like, what?
By the way, Jenny,
I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't get the ball enough to distribute to worry about it with the US, although with Rutgers I did. So.
Jenny played long enough.
I made more international saves than Saskia. That's my claim.
Oh, absolutely. Mia Hamm made more international saves than I did the one time she played, so it's okay.
Jenny's got one. The great thing though is that she was able to play all the way long enough until the advent of YouTube. So at the tail end of Jenny's career, there's just like all these YouTube saves that are all within like the span of like the very beginning of YouTube. Like it's amazing. Like you go on there and I'm like, oh my God, this person really edited this poorly. I'm like, oh, that's when YouTube first started. So like that was probably like really high level technology at the time.
You got to transfer the beta and the VHS over. And the 8mm. Like that's how old I am.
I wouldn't want to face either one of you guys in a box, though. That's for sure. Let's talk about this right now, because this has been a very big topic on this show, Jenny. We've been talking, even when we had NC Courage, all their goalkeepers on, we talked about detecting themes, and when we had, Bella Bixby from Portland Thorns, we talked about, recognizing triggers, and how big a part that is in teaching distribution, is that the players have to recognize the scenarios kind of ahead of time so they know what they're dealing with, right?
Totally. And I think one thing I've been really focusing on, and that's why I wanted to share it, is that it's a checklist or a run sheet that you should be going through as a goalkeeper every time you step on the pitch.
Ooh, share it.
I am. That's what I'm going to do. And I'll send you my notes, Saskia. But it's basically, you need to know the formation of your opponent. You need to have, the style of play. Are they going to high press? A lot of will get this at the collegiate level. Professionally, you'll be given this in the scouting report. Mm-hmm. But it's the goalkeeper really understanding, I'm going to pay attention here, and I'm going to ask myself, I have 5 questions. What is the formation of the opponent? What is their style? Are they possession based? Are they direct? Where's the line of confrontation? Where are the gaps in space? So like you were saying, Omar, it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to find you, Saskia. Well, I'm going to say, I already know where that gap in that space should be because of the formation that they're playing. And then the last one you're going to do is know your attributes of your players versus that, and then also knowing the attributes of their players. So if you have a 9 that's just going to run at you all day, obviously you're not going to play the ball down. That's where you're going to look to throw quickly to actually take her out of the game as quickly as possible. Or if their 9's going to drop off and is lazy, then it's going to give me a little bit more time to move around the 18-yard box or put the ball down, take a few touches, and then be able to hit the ball. So that's my checklist. And that's what I've been trying to, get across to people to recognize and understand, and then apply that to the game. So when you go in, the cognitive understanding, because I've assessed and watched, and over the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, I'm knowing where that is, reassess with my goalkeeper coach at halftime what their opinion is, and then hopefully that would create more successful opportunities for me when I go to distribute. I think the ratio, if I have it right, it's 16 to 24 passes, the distribution will start from the goalkeeper. So it's the starting from a goalkeeper, if you look at the attacking or yourself and the opponent, it's starting more with a goalkeeper than it is in any other action of the game, from a throw in to the kickoff to corners to set pieces. And that's why I'm a huge component, and Saskia knows this about me, is distribution is so important. Please spend time on it. Please
right. And I tell people, what do you do 90% of the game?
Yeah.
You're not saving the ball at the upper 90, and hopefully not dealing with breakaways and shots 90% of the game, because then we have a really big problem. But what you are doing is distribution. It's distribution, and it's what you're doing. So why aren't we spending a lot of time on it? Period. We spend so much time on shot stopping, so much time on handling, so much time on dealing with all this stuff, which you're not doing the amount of time that you're doing distribution. So,
but I think that's one of the issues is that a lot of times with goalkeeper training, and Omar, I want to ask you about this, because I think it's been about playing concepts as opposed to, Jenny, I love what you said in regards to what is that number 9? What are her strengths right there? Because if you're going to play that scenario the same way over and over again with every different team that you're playing, then you're not reading the scouting reports, and you're not dealing with reality in front of you. You're dealing with concept, and you have to deal with what's actually in front of you. What if you have a left back that's terrible with that foot? You're going to play it the same way to that same player as you do as the other player who just substituted in, who's much better with that foot. So you have to recognize these types of things. And and Omar, we were talking about is if we compartmentalize our training, then we're not really playing the game, because there's no such thing as well, this is the crossing part of goalkeeping today in my game, and today now this is the distribution part of my game. Oh, and this is the smothering part of my game. No, it all happens at the same time, right?
Yeah, there tends to be certain limitations for us as goalkeeper coaches, and I'm sure we've all had that before, whether we were in goal and our goalkeeper coach put us in sessions, or we were the ones who put the sessions together and we only had 2 or 3 kids in the session. So yes, there are limitations, but again, it's important that, I use myself as an example. Sometimes, like you said, Mike, I'm very concept oriented, because I get these kids maybe once, twice a month. A lot of them will come to me in the middle of their seasons, and then I'll get to see them after that. So for me, it's we're hitting specific things that they want to work on. So if they say, hey, coach, I really want to work on crossing. So for me, it's okay, I first want to see where you're at. Okay, great. Now I know where you're at. Okay, now let's put you in scenario-based situations where we're getting services in, and I have the other goalkeeper stepping in on top of the 18, and they're creating traffic, and they're not very good at traffic. So if I notice that, then I want to continue to get reps and reps and reps. So for me, it's a little bit different because I don't get them all the time. So I really want to hone in on certain concepts for them. But I see where you're coming from, where it's creating a complete picture for them, understanding of like, this is what we're working on, catching the ball, finding the outlet. We're going to continue to do that. Okay, next rep, I'm going to tell the person who's out there, change your position. Let's see what they do with the distribution. Is it going to be a throw now? Is it going to be a side volley? Is it going to be a roll? So just mixing it up like that to give them a different picture. But yeah, I think it's important to not always do concept stuff, but more full picture.
Yeah, but I think I'll defer this to Jenny because I know what she instilled in Lauren and what we have now with her and her quality distribution. There's a certain amount of responsibility that falls on the player as well. Your entire session can't be set up on around one thing. When you put that time in off the field, off the training field as well, it makes a monumental amount of difference. When you take a couple balls and you go out and you work on your side volley and you work on your goal kicks and you work on certain things, you have to do it. You have to.
Yeah.
And I think, Mike, I told my story on here before about going to Mexico when I was 15, and the drills that we were.
This is the knees one?
No, different one. But the way these drills started was you would get a shot from the 18. It was crazy. I love the concept now that I think about it. The whole team was watching you like start the drill for the whole team. It was a crossing drill. And the coach, our goalkeeper coach, would say, go. We'd do a quick little shift, and then down the middle, he would hit a volley from the 18. We'd have to catch it, run up to the 18, and then hit a side volley. And you'd have lines of people on the corners of the midline. They'd receive it. They'd come down, do a 1-2 pass, and then they'd cross the ball in. So it's almost like in possession, out of possession. But one, it was working on actual catching or finishing up one rep and then hitting a side volley and finding the outlet pass. But at the same time, like Jenny just said, about a lot of times as goalkeepers, when we take those risks, sometimes we give a bad pass, and now we're starting our positioning and recovering from the 18 back to our line. And that works on a completely different part of your game now of, positional awareness, positional sense, understanding where you are. So I thought it was a great concept, probably not then because I sucked at side volleys, but now if I'm looking at it and I'm thinking it adds, there's an additional layer of pressure as well. The entire drill depends on you finding that outlet pass. And they would even call after the first progression, okay, after you catch the ball, the coach will tell you right or left. Then you have to play that way. So now you're waiting for that call where like you're keeping your hips in a position where you can easily shift from going this way, shift to go that way. So again, it's like these different ways to get creative, but I think to really get the full picture and the full scope, it's really important for us coaches to try and get the first team coach or the head coach, Jenny, this is a shout to you, to get everybody involved in the goalkeeper training to give them that picture if we, at best we can.
Yeah. I want to bring this up with Jenny right there in regards to that. Obviously, by the way, I can't think of anything more intimidating than like if my head coach that I'm the goalkeeper coach for, has the accolades that you do as a goalkeeping position. I'd be like second guessing myself every second. They're like,
I don't have a goalkeeper coach.
Okay. You're doing the goalkeepers too?
My World Cup coach was the goalkeeper coach.
I'm doing it all at the moment, but so. Yeah, like maybe Saskia can come and
I think Amanda's watching.
And then come over and help me. But no, and I love what you're saying, Omar. And I think that I kind of chuckled when you said it because it does happen now where everything we do either starts with the goalkeeper, some form of distribution, or they're always involved. Because I think. And I'm sure Saskia, we grew up where you turned up to a training session the same time as your teammates, got out of the car, you get to the field, do a little warm up of rondo, waiting for everybody to turn up. And then they go, here's a bag of balls.
Go over there
under that light that's blinking. And
with the exhaust engine going of those lights, those portable lights.
And we'll call you when we need you. And then you've missed exactly everything that's going on. So no, to your point, Omar, like and our, Gina Brewer, who's my assistant coach, and Kevin Pineda, they're always laughing like it's all about the keepers. We have the best balls.
I will say, fortunately, my career, I always had a goalkeeper coach, which is very rare. So, Like even before I got to Rutgers, like I had a one-on-one. Then when I got to Rutgers, I always had a goalkeeper coach. National team, obviously Tony was my goalkeeper coach, and then became my head coach. So that's very rare though. So I wasn't always kicked in the corner, but you know,
well, that's probably why you did as far as you did.
Guys, we have a question. We have a question in the comments section from a former Bruin. This comes from Sarah Farnham. And she goes, youth coaches constantly are teaching youngsters to distribute wide to the 2s and 3s, every opportunity to build out of the back. And they have a tendency to get frustrated when the keepers want to distribute creatively. Now, I don't know what she means by creative distribution. Does she mean Cruyff turns? Does she mean they're, doing chips? She wants to know our thoughts.
Jenny would know this as well, but I think knowing Sarah, she means like bypassing that, just like Jenny said, looking at bypassing, a line, taking out a whole line of players. And every once in a while, like one of my favorite things was like you draw them in. If you're playing out short and everything like that, eventually that other team's going to be pressing high, and guess what? Drop one over the top and let Mia Hamm run onto it and score. So it's like, but you have to think. And so, yes, I think youth coaches are just like, oh, just here, everybody go, go wide, just roll it there, and they'll kick it.
Yeah, and I think Sarah's spot on too, because if you think about that, I mean, that's one of our triggers, right? Any ball that's played out wide, and we can go ahead and have our,
somebody else deal with it.
Well, as a goalkeeper, that's what we're doing. We're passing the buck, which is not what we should be doing. But when that ball is played out wide to a 2 or 3, you're going to have either the 7, 11, the 9, the 10 stepping, and that's a trigger to press, right? So, if a keeper can bypass and find a 6 or an 8 that breaks that whole front line out of those 3 players, that's the magic ball. That's if you can get a keeper doing that majority of the time, then they're unlocking what the opposition is wanting to do, because they're either the 9, right? If they play with the 3 front, the 9 is supposed to force one way, force them into an area where they can then create a trigger to press. And I think Sarah makes sure Morgan finds a 6 and 8. And
hey, Sarah.
But you bring up a good point, Jenny. And Omar, I want to ask you this because, a lot of times one of the issues, especially at the youth level, and Jenny, I'm sure you can attest to this, Saskia, I know you can attest to this, our resources are that we don't have the right dimensions a lot of the times. And so goalkeepers start, if they're training in these improper dimensions all the time at their youth club sessions when they get into the game, well, that's what they've been doing over and over again. So that's their subconscious is like, well, I don't have the space to do this, or that ball's too close or whatever. But in reality, they have way more space to play that ball over that 6 now, and, Omar, I know that's something that you've been trying to do, is making sure that like those dimensions are such that like they're thinking from a game standpoint and like, okay, what can I play right now in an actual game?
Yeah, and I think again, I think Saskia was saying that at a certain point, like we need to give the goalkeepers that ability to like think outside the box. Like I love drawing my sessions up, and I love, for me at least, it gives me an idea of what I want from this session, and I say, okay, this is a potential for the goalkeepers to really get challenged, where things can go wrong, or their service can be in a bad position, or whatever the case may be. So like I really budget that chaos, but I feel like as young goalkeepers, you need to be extremely curious to see what the drill is giving you and figuring out on your own without the coach telling you the different opportunities that you may have in this situation. And I think that is, maybe for me at least, maybe I sometimes tell the kids too much of what to expect because I want them to have a perfect session. But I think that's the important part too, of like, look, here's the drill, and I want you guys to try and find whatever pass you feel is suitable in this moment. And yeah, the dimensions, sometimes can kind of screw you up a little bit and put you in a position where it's not realistic. But again, for us coaches, can we try at the very least, or maybe you don't do a distribution session that day? I mean, that's all I can say.
I don't necessarily agree with the dimension situation, because you can bypass a line in small-sided. I'm sorry, like I love threading that needle with my, like looking high and threading that needle and finding somebody if they're moving, and that just makes you have some more pinpoint accuracy. But at least you're looking, you're not just going like this in small-sided with the dimensions different and everything. You can still look high, you can still look one line ahead or one player, and stuff. And I think that you see that a lot, even if the dimensions are different. That's like you're still just passing the buck. Why? All I'm doing is giving the ball next to me, so you're going to give the same pass that I could have done.
Well, so I'm going to tell you a story. I trained with
Oh,
this.
is this another story from Mexico?
Oh my God.
No. So the mindset that I had was I was the goalkeeper coach for a local club here when I first started, and I had probably 10 kids, and all we got was the 18. So that was the dimension. Sorry, when I talk about dimensions, that's what I'm thinking about. So we got the 18, and I said, you know what? There's a team that's sitting just underneath the circle, and there's nobody in behind them. So maybe we catch a cross or we catch a shot, and that person can hit a volley or a side volley or long kick up to their the goalkeeper that's not in. So I said, okay, let's do that. So a few reps go by, everyone's bypassing, it's going great. And this one kid says, you know what? I think they in their head they said, I'm going to try a drop kick, try something a little bit different. And I kid you not, it drop kicked right into this young girl's forehead, like right on the face. And that girl fell like a tree, literally just fell right over. All the parents rushed to the field, and I'm like the new guy. They just hired me. And I'm thinking to myself, that was so stupid. What am I doing? And I got the kids back, and I just I felt so bad because I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't have why am I trying to create this environment where it's not there and all this stuff? So that's what I mean by dimensions, that sometimes you can get in a lot of trouble. And luckily the team gave me insurance, or they gave me insurance to not have to worry about that stuff. Girl was concussed for a few weeks, no issues there. She had a little
How old was this kid? How old was this kid?
I think she was 13. She was 13. Poor girl probably went to school with a full 90 hat the entire week, and I don't know. Yeah, it was just, so that's what I mean by that.
Yeah, I know. I just think that, Jenny, if when you're training and you're doing, you have your team cut, obviously, even in Corona, we had limited numbers and stuff like that. So everything was small-sided and smaller dimensions and stuff. You're still looking at your goalkeepers don't just pass the buck, start offense with you.
Yeah.
But
I think
right,
too,
Jen?
if you think of even when you do small-sided, say you're in the luxury of playing from, the end line to maybe the between the center circle and the top of the D there, or you're using the half field. So many times as a keeper, we get the ball in those small-sided games, like Saskia was saying, and we put the ball down our feet, so we're inside our 6, and then we're playing. Well, in a game, here's your whole 18. Come to the end of your 18, and now you've just gained, 10, 15 yards. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, Bob's your
one of my biggest pet peeves, Jenny, is that when a player doesn't think, what is my objective here by making this pass? Am I just making this pass because I'm told that I'm supposed to pass the ball right now, or do I have a specific reason, and I think personally, a lot of things like you were saying about your checklists, right, is that you need to recognize and say, okay, me making this pass, does it help my team get up the field to get potentially a shot on goal into a dangerous final action, up the field? And if it doesn't, if I'm either making the situation worse or the same as me, then why am I even playing this ball? And I think one of the biggest issues that we have a lot of times, and I don't know if you would attest to this, is that we don't have enough goalkeepers that when they're doing any sort of distribution activities, when they're doing the field player activity, they're thinking like those positions. Instead, they're thinking like a goalkeeper and just waiting for their turn for themselves to get it in the cage in any sort of isolated training, And we really need to get these goalkeepers to think like a 6 or think like a 2, if that's what we're doing in the session. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think the more that they can play as an outfield player, the best it's going to be, especially at a younger age. And then, the more you involve them in rondos or you involve them in the lead of the starting the session off is coming from a goalkeeper. And it's like when you lift weights, right? Saskia, I don't know, Omar, you probably can attest to this. Is that when you go and you're doing, your cable cross, right? So you're doing the cable cross, you're in the gym, you're doing this, you're doing this.
That's some good form, by the way. I like that.
How does this relate to me as a goalkeeper? Well,
right.
In my set position, making a save. And I think we don't relate anything we're doing to the game. So when we're in a rondo situation, now we're in our defending third, ball's been played to a 2, I've gone to support underneath. It's been played back to me. Now the next option in my head, I should be thinking, I can play either one of my center backs. Can I find a 6 or an 8, or does, because of the pressure, this ball just needs to go as high and wide in safety? And I think the more we can, as coaches, tell the kids, hey, how does that relate to a game? And ask simple questions that is going to, one, check for their understanding in those situations, then we'll never know what they know. But, and I think the ones that are most successful and the ones that are playing at the highest level, this is why. So a lot of them are good shot stoppers. A lot of them can, I mean, and this is where, I mean, I'm going to say, I think Saskia agreed with me 100%. Remember the name Lauren Brisky, because this kid is going to be playing for US one day, because as soon as she figures out the distribution side of it, haven't met a shot stopper better across the world. I've been a little bit global here. So she's just unbelievable. But I don't think Lauren will be upset if I say this, I don't think Lauren did a lot in the distribution side of it growing up, and she's had to do catch up, and she's done a fantastic job. And I know Saskia, when we talked about it, we were like, we just got to make sure Lauren keeps doing all that stuff, because I mean, this kid is somebody that we're all going to be talking about one day.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Mike came to us, like my one spring game, and he was watching Lauren. He's like, she's worked so hard on it, and it's and she continues to, and absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, her side volley the pace she has, the accuracy does, how direct it is, how clean it is. It's really a sight to behold. This is becoming a Lauren fan club podcast.
I know. Hey, she's got that little drop little hitch kick that she does really quick. That's spot on. I've never seen before. She's got so many things in her toolbox right now. It's so awesome. Jen, I don't know if you've seen her. She is so fit. I've never been more upset that we didn't have a season for somebody that came in out of coronavirus, 20 pounds lighter and fit as can be. And, you'd be so proud. You'd be so proud.
Omar, I got a question for you. In regards to mistakes that a lot of coaches are making when they're doing these types of activities, would you say that just really the overcoaching is kind of the number one that you've noticed when it comes to this, is in regards to micromanaging what they want the goalkeeper to do?
Yeah, I think we can become fixated on, I think we talked about it, Mike, you and I, showing professional footage. And I think I definitely have that. Instinct is to always show, Ederson or whoever's really good at sweeper keeper, for example, and I'm showing them this is what I want you to look like. But at the same time, these players are playing in a system like Liverpool and Man City. They're playing in a system where their team is so advanced, they have to be that 11th field player. So if I'm showing them this footage and this is what I want them to look like, this is what we're working on, a perfect image, this is what I want to see, and then I'm trying to relate that to my goalkeepers, and then in their head, okay, Coach Omar wants me to pass the ball like Ederson. He wants me to be just like Allison. He wants me to do this, this, and this. When that is also overcoaching, right? You're showing them a picture that's unrealistic, and now they step onto the field and try to be something that they're not. And again, now are we actually helping them, or are we trying to be better versions of people that they're not? And I think that is something that I would say too, is the video is important, but at the same time, manage your expectations of the session, of what the goalkeepers that you're working with, what their, ceiling is and what their potential is, versus trying to have everything look so perfect like you would in Ederson, Ter Stegen, Allison. So that's what I would say is, yes, some coaches overcoach, but at the same time, they have that unrealistic expectation because of the footage or whatever they see on the weekend, and they try to get that from their goalkeepers. And if they don't show that or portray that, I think the coaching points can be a little bit misleading and skewed the wrong way.
I think you just brought up a really, really good point, and either Saskia or Jenny, if you guys want to interject on this, is that I think that the youth level specifically, this happens is well, I've been working on this with my team because tactically I see Pep does this and I think it's a work. And so then what the goalkeeper does in this situation is this. And then they get frustrated that, that little Johnny or little Sarah can't do that. And there's well, that's what the goalkeeper's supposed to do in this situation. It's yeah, but that's the demands of your game first off are very different than the demands of that game. And also just the level, your expectations are too high. Would either one of you guys agree, or am I kind of going on the wrong side here?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. I think it's, Omar's pretty much nailed it when he said, that the expectations that we put on the youth player. So I think one, it's allowing them to know what we want from them. And often I and maybe it's changing a little bit, but letting them know what we want from the goalkeeper in that distribution, or what's required for that day, and then having that discussion, and then setting them up to succeed, and then not getting them up to fail.
No, I agree with that 100%. And how I feel, Mike, about it, it's a gray area as well. First of all, I can't stand joy stickers. as coaches, it drives me crazy, whether you're a field coach, especially if you're a field coach. You know, we go through training, we do these things, and a lot of times there's multiple options. You should train your options in a scenario. And you might see things one way and they might see something a different way. And, you know, sometimes there's a right and a wrong answer, but sometimes there is a gray area. Give them the tools to make those decisions. Don't make them for them. You know, set them up for success, set your team up for success, and let them play.
Yeah. I think you brought up a really good point in regards to setting them up and then just letting them play, you know. And Jenny, obviously as a head coach, you know, you can attest to that, is that, you know, once the match starts, you know, you need to let them make their own decisions, you know, and come up with their own solutions for a problem, you know, and the only way they're going to do
a certain point.
Okay.
Well, I'm saying that because if there's like a fundamental team breakdown and they're not identifying something you have to make, you're not just sitting back, like having your cup of tea and just like, you know, whatever, they'll figure it out. We'll talk about it. There's certain things. I mean, like, yeah, in the run of play, more specifically, like, you know, things change.
Yeah. Jenny, I know you got to get out of here in a few minutes. So
No.
Yeah, she's got a meeting. You got an LMU meeting, right? That you got to get to. So. Yeah. So quick question for you here. Any advice to any goalkeeper, like a young goalkeeper that's kind of getting caught? They're either flat on a pass back or rushing a decision, you know, because I think those are the two biggest issues with youth goalkeepers, is in regards to, from a cognitive standpoint of what to do, is they're either not mentally checked out, you know, or they're ahead of the play.
Yeah, I mean, Saskia, another big thing I always talk about is ball lines and understanding where the ball line is and constantly moving and being, what's the saying is, be ready instead of having to get ready. And I think if you're always thinking that way, so for instance, what I mean by the ball line is wherever the ball is to the middle of the pitch, as a goalkeeper, I should be straddling that line or somewhere close to it. And that's where I'm going to be able to make saves. In the distribution process, you're constantly moving. So when you receive, you have that channel, no different to an outfield player. Or I love that you brought up the six, because if you can, a goalkeeper should be able to step in and play the sixth position very easily. We think they should be center backs, but that's a little bit different. You're dealing with contact, dropping that, but the six is the distributor. They're the playmaker. So as a goalkeeper, I want to be the playmaker. So when the ball's played back to me, I can continue to play forward.
Yeah. And I think, you know, one of the biggest things, in my opinion, personally, and I know both of you two as well are very high on this, is that when it comes to distribution as a goalkeeper, you know, it's everything you do off the ball that's going to determine how successful that distribution is going to be. You know, the final action is you making the actual movement when you have the ball at your feet, but everything leading up to that is going to determine, because that's where you know, what type of support are you giving? You know, how deep are you? How high are you? You know, are you checking to that ball? Are you not checking to that ball? Is going to determine what type of a ball you receive and where you're going to receive it, you know, and what kind of pressure you're going to get, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think we want to make proactive goalkeepers and not reactive goalkeepers.
Yeah, yep. That's right. And I think we need to make not like absolutely insane, like what I see a lot with young goalkeepers and everything, you get into these games, they get ready to, you know, the distribution, and everybody yelling at you and like, blah, 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 and then you get all flustered and you don't know what to do. Like, and then you give up. I'm sorry, but you see young goalkeepers and then they rush it, you know, and they give up. They think they're supposed to go here because Jenny, not Jenny. We won't use the name Jenny. We'll use the name Omar. So Omar's yelling at me and I think I'm supposed to give Omar the ball, but I see the field. I see the field. Omar might not see the pressure he has on, you know, off his right hip or something like that, but he wants the ball and stuff. And I think teaching your goalkeepers to calm it down, understand what they have in front of them, understand their role, and to make those choices with confidence, not fall into that is a big thing for youth keepers as well. And you see it, you know, as kids get older, they get flustered. But you have to, you know, through practice and everything, calm it down.
Yeah, I think the calming down, I think, is probably the biggest issue that we see. And as we wrap up here, Omar, I kind of want to just ask you in regards to, because you share a lot of stories about your faults, when your trials in Mexico, in college getting chipped, ice cream trucks that would distract you when you were 9 years old and stuff like that.
I will say really quick. I will tell you, Omar, I used to get distracted too. And even as I got older, I knew, and I say this and I say it, I'll put it out there. I used to know every single color of the tail of a plane that used to land at JFK because I'd be on the field so not involved in play and bored that I knew Qantas, I knew KLM, I knew everything. I was like, oh, look, there's a KLM plane. There's because I look up, there goes the plane. I was like, oh yeah, that's United and everything. Yeah, so I would get distracted too. Reel it in.
Well, it's probably better to know. It's probably better to identify planes. That's probably better suited for you in the rest of your life than ice cream flavors. That's probably you don't really need ice cream flavors very much in life. So.
No. But as we wrap up, and Jenny, I know you need to get out of here. First, thanks for taking all the time and dealing with the technical issues we've had today. I don't know what's going on with the Wi-Fi connection, but it's definitely been spotty, and we haven't been able to stream online. It's been a whole.
Yeah, but the good thing is when you edit it, it'll be smooth. So.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
We'll see how that works out. Well, I mean, the audio I'll be able to edit smoothly. That's smoothish, let's just say.
Hey, Jenny, if Amanda lets me come over, I'd be there any day.
Thanks, Mike. We got to put on some goalkeeper striker camps. We'll do that together.
Absolutely. Done and done. You don't have to ask twice.
There you go. I'm just going to blame everything on 2020. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to blame today on 2020. I guess there's worse things going on in the world than our Wi-Fi connection. Jenny, if anybody out there wants to reach out to you, if they want to connect in regards to either, your journey, or they're looking for more advice in regards to, how to train some of these activities, like where's the best place for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty accessible. My email, all my information is right there. You can contact me at LMU. Obviously, recruiting policies can't talk to prospective student athletes, but I'm willing to talk to goalkeepers. I think it's the goalkeeper union. I'm a big fan of it, big part of it, and so yeah, I'm available to people. DM me or whatever, or Saskia. Get a hold of Saskia, and she can get a hold of me. So
absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You know it.
I really appreciate your guys' time. This has been absolutely.
Yeah, and you got to come back on because we also
definitely
have a big time New Zealand keeper coming up to the ranks, right? I think we were talking about we got to get you two on together.
Yeah. Hopefully she'll be coming on very soon, and then shout out to her, playing over in the WSL. Which I think is really awesome. We've talked about it here. I feel like I can watch that more accessibly than the men's English Premier League now with the Peacock app, which I don't know. Is that I can't find any.
All right,
I can't.
Wrap it up.
I know. We'll wrap it up. All right, guys, you can reach out to Saskia Weber at Saskia_Weber on all social media platforms, at ProGK Academy _ on all social media platforms. Shout out to everybody who signed up for the supreme premium super duper service that Omar's been providing out there. Some great stuff in the last day or so. And remember, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com. If you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. That's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later.